So this is the box that came from Swytch. I ordered it in the end of November 2018, and I have to say it's just arrived, which is now August 2019, which is not too much of a problem because I got a good deal on it as a pre-order. I have actually taken some bits and pieces out of it, but basically that's how the product arrives. It's rather nice. The wheel is looking quite good. There's a few bits of polystyrene on it, but it's nice and solid. Looks well made. So I think the spokes seem to be fairly tight. I have to do this one-handed all the way around, so there's no issues with that. So that's quite good. This only rotates in one direction. Well, it does rotate in both directions, but there's some resistance in the other direction. Interesting to compare with the Brompton, which there was no rolling resistance. So we'll have to see whether that's the case. This is the handlebar bracket, and then inside the rest of it here, there was this battery, which we'll look at in a minute, and the sensor for the pedal rotation, so that he knows when to apply pressure. Quick start manual. I have to say I've read the proper manual online, which is really good because I wanted to understand exactly what I needed to know. Down here is the charger here, and I'll show you that separately. So here we've got the Swytch battery pack and charger. Charger is quite a lump, but then it's not that heavy, and I guess I wouldn't really be carrying it around with me. I was fortunate to be offered an upgrade for the Swytch. I ordered the 25-mile one, and actually they upgraded it with another payment to a 50-mile kit, so I shouldn't have to worry too much about charging it. So you switch on here, hold this button. I've charged it up, so for the prescribed time before I do anything, so that's all ready to go now when I've put it onto the bike. So everything seems to be okay. So I've opened this up, and here's the battery inside the unit. So here's the battery. You can take it out. It's got wires down the side. Shouldn't really need to take it out at the moment. So that's the label. Thought I'd show you my Brompton before conversion. It's a standard Brompton 3-speed. Let's just look at the width with everything on. So we're looking around 30 to 33 centimeters. Now, I have made some modifications to this bike, so let's just detail those quickly. Apart from the fact it's a Brompton 3-speed, it's got the flat type handlebars, which I prefer because I like to ride a racing bike and it's more comfortable. So I've changed the grips to these quite comfortable grips for riding. I didn't like the Brompton ones. The bike also includes a Bluebell cycling navigation device, which is an amazing thing actually, and we'll talk more about that later. On this side I've also changed the chain ring to a smaller toothed chain ring, as my journey home was uphill. I think that's going to have to be converted back to the larger chain ring, which I still have. So I've weighed the bike before conversion, and got a weight of 12.02 kilograms complete. So I've now performed the conversion on the Brompton. As you can see, it's folded up. The fold is still pretty good. The width is now with the fold is about 33 centimeters. If I take into account my grips there, then it's 36. So before it was 30 to 33, Now it's 33 to 36, so it's adding about 3 centimeters to the width of the bike. Obviously my grips are flared out, so they give a bit more width to it. So the fold appears not to be compromised, but let me just talk you through some of the things that I had to pay attention to when I actually converted it. So first of all, putting the handlebars back up, you can see that there's a new Brompton peg on here. That's screwed on as far as it will go. Actually, there probably is some width to reduce the fold a bit further, but that actually won't go on any further. The other thing that's had to be done is where the new powered hub unit fits into the dropouts on the fork, because of the width, the axle is actually a longer one. The position of the axle doesn't quite sit where the Brompton wheel does. Meant that the brake pads were running off the rim and onto the tyre. So basically I had to file out the dropouts to actually allow the wheel to go back further up into the fork. So I have to done that on either side, and I've painted them up so they can't have a corrosion issue. So in order to do this job, I've required 2 fires. I used the edge of this quite big coarse file to actually file the forks, and then use the round file to actually make the profile the right shape, so that the new axle fitted in place. The dropouts on the brakes didn't allow me to drop the brake pads down further, so they're at the lowest point they can be. Actually, when I put the Brompton wheel back in, if I put the Brompton wheel back in, it means I'm going to have to mount these brake pads higher up here in the dropouts, but I don't think that's a problem. I looked at various options to solve this problem and came to the conclusion that filing the dropouts on the forks was the least damaging thing to do to the bicycle in order to make it fit. So that's the option I took. If we look at the bike unfolded now, you can see the Swytch connector block on the front here, nice and robust. There's actually quite a lot of connectors on it. One thing I have had to pay attention to is the routing of the main motor cable, which runs down the runs down the right hand side. I tried it on the left hand side, but actually when the wheel is turned to the right, there's too much cable tension, so this now runs down secured the bottom here and runs down to the bottom. I was slightly concerned about the bend on this wire at the bottom here. It's not moving anywhere, so I think it's okay. We'll have to see how that goes, but nothing's moving around at the bottom end here, so maybe that's okay. But the position of this wire is such that on the video for installation they show this going the other side of the tube on the right hand side and then around the back, but there's too much tension and it seems to fold in this position, which is good. The other thing is the pedal sensor unit here, and the sensor unit here is put on with 2 cable ties put together and then stuck on with a sticky pad. This seems to be a much more robust position to fix it into, and seems to work quite nicely when it rotates, so I'm quite pleased with that. So the bike weight of the converted bike without the battery is 13.77 kilos, so I'm just quite happy with that. It's not too much of an issue. And then in terms of rolling resistance, what you notice is the wheel rotates quite nicely unpowered in that direction. However, there is resistance to the wheel in the reverse direction, but that shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to see what that's like for unpowered cycling. So now I've put the battery in place, the weight of the complete bike is now coming in at 17.31 kilos. So this isn't light, but hopefully the battery will compensate for the increased weight of the whole cycling experience. The other point to note, if you want to stand the bike in the park mode, you have to turn the handlebars right the way back, because if it's in any other position, the bike isn't stable and it will collapse over. So the parking is going to be critical. It seems to stand in that position. though I'll be investigating this a bit more as I use it. So here's the bike in the park position, with both bags attached to it. The bag seems to fit quite well, so the Swytch bag seems to fit quite well relative to the Brompton bag. It's a standard small Brompton bag. I'm not quite sure how well the other one would fit, but there's about a 2 to 3 inch gap between the two, so you might get a bigger bag onto there. If we look at the control panel shows you the amount of battery level, how far this bike's gone. It's relatively new, so it's only done 4.7 miles. The power level, there's 5 power levels on this bike, 5 being the greatest. One thing that I had to do when I got this was to set up the unit, because actually it wasn't set up correctly for the right wheel size, and also the speed limiter was also set, which is also interfering with the way that the current motor works. So I had to do a reset on it, and also set it up correctly for the correct wheel size, as shown in the manual. Though it's not a big deal, but it took me a while to work out what was going on and why it wasn't working correctly. But now it seems to be fine. So I think it's now a good time to take the bike for a road test. I'm going to start the road test. We can see that set the level to the fastest acceleration, level 5 to start with. As I said before, this handle seems to just fit down the side here, which is quite good, under the flap, and the flap's got the charge point and the USB for charging your phone. Just fixes in there. So turning the power back on, so it seems to have gone off. Okay, level 5. Okay, let's start cycling. And the motor's kicked in, second gear, and we're off. 16.6 miles an hour, 17 miles an hour. Change back down to first gear. This is a 3-speed bike. Still in level 5 acceleration. We're going up the hill. It's pulling away extremely well. 15.2, 15.4 miles an hour. Okay, not pedalling, start to pedal, power comes on. Nice progressive acceleration. Cars coming, let's see again, here comes the power. Into third gear fairly quickly. Right, I'm going to turn it down a bit here, because when I turn at the junction here I don't want to be pulling away too quickly, so I've gone down to level 2. This car's coming, right. Right at the junction. Okay, and then accelerate, and level 2, pulled it away nicely. 10.5 miles an hour to level 3. 13 miles an hour, level 4. This is 14 miles an hour. So level 1, about 9 miles an hour. Level 2, 10 miles an hour. Level 3, 12.9 miles an hour. 4, 14.6 miles an hour. All in all, I think the Swytch conversion offers a great commuter transport solution. It stops you getting there with a sweaty back. If you had your suit on, just makes it. This is the 50-mile kit, and actually it looks like it will go for a very long time between charges. So it's very practical, very usable. Doesn't affect the bike fold. Adds a bit of weight, but actually the battery and the bike has two separate parts, and you can carry them in two hands, so it's not really a big problem. The last thing I want to show you is the Bluebell cycling computer I mentioned before. This is a device that uses lights to show you where you're going. So what I'm going to do is put a destination into it. You can see it sets up, and then the lights come on to show you which direction to cycle in. So green lights show you the direction we're going to go in, and then we'll set this off onto level 4 and see how we get on. Okay, here we go. Change the gear down, and Bluebell is off. Bike's moving, Bluebell's indicating straight ahead. The yellow lights indicate that you need to get ready to turn, and then when you get closer to the turn, they'll go green, which indicates you're going to go green now. That indicates where we need to go, and then the blue light shows the destination. So the next turn is a turn to the right. It's indicating now green, so the traffic go past. Blue light shows the destination in terms of where it is relative to your start point. And we're off again. Straight into second gear, to third gear. Bluebell indicates about to turn left, signal. It's going to go green, and it shows to turn now, and we take it. The motor seems to come on and off during riding. I need to look at some of the settings to see if it's set up correctly. I've ridden the Brompton, which has got 3 power settings. That's very smooth and very refined. This is obviously probably half the price of the Brompton kit. Therefore you'd expect some compromises, but generally it works as they say it does, and it does provide some support going up hills, which is quite pleasant. So generally I'm really impressed with the Swytch Brompton conversion. It does what they say it does. It's actually a pleasure to use. I can see it being an effective commuting tool. I've used it in the dry, haven't used it in the wet yet, so we'll see how it performs. But generally it's really quite a pleasure to use, and it's quite good fun.